Welcome to Deep Dish Dialogues. I'm Rebecca. I am the Culinary Projects Lead with the Guelph Food Institute and the School of Hospitality, Food and Tourism Management. And we are excited to welcome you here to our first Deep Dish Dialogues of 2024. We are working with Crafty Ramen today, and I'm really excited. And we are looking at how do you develop a restaurant product, and then how do you scale up to then be able to fit the retail market. And so along with us today, we have guest speakers from the John F. Wood Center at Lang and also the Guelph Food Innovation Centre. So I will officially now introduce our guests from Crafty Ramen. So we have Khalil Khamis, who is the CEO of Crafty Ramen, and we also have Jared Farrell, is the executive chef at Crafty Ramen, and he's also the co-founder. So welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here. It really is. Thank you.
Thank you. So just as we begin, I would love to know from you, Jared, can you tell us a little bit about how Crafty Ramen was created and your evolution a little bit?
Well, I mean, the reason, so when we came up with the idea, me and my wife started Crafty Ramen in 2016, was when we first got the license. We opened the first shop 2017. At the time we came up with the idea, we were working as, I was a private chef, and my wife was the chief stewardess on a luxury yacht. It was a very glamorous life, very exciting, but like I'd spent all my career up to that point cooking for like the 0.1% basically, and we knew that when we wanted to do something, as great as it was working on a yacht, we wanted to be a sense of community. We really missed that. We missed being with our family and friends and really feeling like we were part of something. So we'd already decided that Guelph was where we wanted to be because I had friends and family that lived here, and we visited many times and just fallen in love with the city. So that was already sort of locked in. And then with Mickey's Japanese background and my culinary background, one day we were just brainstorming ideas, and we happened upon the idea of opening a ramen shop, and it was just, that was it. That was it made perfect sense at that point. We loved the idea that we could do something that was like very inclusive, and as a chef, it was very interested. I'd fallen in love with Japan, ramen when I was in Japan, but what really fascinated me about it was that there's 5 different elements to ramen, and you get to, as a chef, being able to play with those 5 elements and then recombine them in different ways was just fascinating for me, and I just could see all the different opportunities and potentialities of that. So we then set about, at the time we stayed on the boat. After making that decision, we were on the boat for probably another 1.5 to 2 years, where we just saved up every penny that we had. I think we were in Mexico at the time, and then we ended up going the other half the way around the world. We got off that boat in Sydney, and we just hit up every single ramen shop that we could find in every city from Alaska, Mexico. Actually, there was a couple ramen shops as well. Many of them in Sydney, and anybody basically that was serving a bowl of ramen. We ate our way through. We were always like students of hospitality, but then from that point on, it was just like everywhere we looked, we were looking for ideas for how we could integrate those into our shop. So that was the beginning.
That's great. And so where are you, I guess, right now? So you have, you opened the first shop in Guelph, and how many years ago was that?
Yeah, so 2017, we opened the first shop. About after Khalil came on board, about a year after that. And then we opened up our second shop 4 months before the pandemic hit. And then we've opened up our third shop just going on to about a year ago now. Yeah, it was last March. Yeah. So
it's great. Yeah, it's been incredible to see the growth. And I remember when you first opened your shop in Guelph, and the buzz around the city was huge, and everyone was just dying to get in and try it. And it was such a nice offering. I think the food offering and also the hospitality that you brought to the city was something we needed.
Yeah.
So it's been
it was so well received. It was felt very welcome after that. We knew that we'd made the right move there for sure. Yeah. And since then, it's just been reinforced constantly.
Yeah, it's great. And like Khalil, I'd love to hear from you. We've seen a lot of growth with Crafty Ramen and hitting the retail market a little bit. And can you talk us through a little bit about how that growth came to you?
Luckily for me, Jared and Mickey opened 8 minutes away from my house, walking distance. So I was in there all the time, having lunch or dinner at the bar and interacting with Jared. And just said, hey, I love what you're doing, and I think we've hit it. Like, you have the brand, the food, the vibe, everything was really enjoyable for me. And I was like, hey, I have multi-unit restaurant experience. Let's grow a restaurant brand together. So we partnered, opened downtown Kitchener 4 months before the pandemic. then we're March of 2020, and I'm sure everybody has a wonderful memory from that month that'll stay with us forever. Like, oh, I remember sitting there with Jared in the restaurant, like looking at the sales numbers, like, oh, what are we gonna do? And just one thing that I really loved about the pandemic is the sense of community that came together. We believe in community over competition, and so we were just talking to everybody that we knew in the industry. What are you doing? Someone's like, I'm making a cocktail kit, I'm making a pizza kit. So like, let's make a ramen kit. So this is V1. And it was late till 11 p.m. one night. These were all spread out on a table in our kitchen at restaurant. We were filling them with all the different components to make ramen at home. And that just had a bit of virality. It took off, and we had people messaging us on social media from all over North America. Can you ship it? Can you ship it? So we launched e-commerce with our ramen meal kit at the end of 2021. We were very naive. It's not easy to ship fresh or frozen food, but we figured it out and made a lot of mistakes on the way. And through that journey, we had independent grocers reaching out to us and saying, this is really cool, we'd love to sell it. So we figured out that there's a white space in the market. So we have instant ramen, better for you instant ramen, and then there's nothing really until going out to eat. So we are bringing restaurant quality ramen home to consumers across the country in a very simple and convenient format. Do you want to grab the one from the freezer? So this is our product in market today. We basically took a bowl of ramen and froze it all together. And you take it out of the package here. You can warm it up on the stove or in your microwave. And it's ready in about 10 minutes at home, and that's what it looks like now. So it took us a lot of time to get the MVP, and as we hear from Erin in a minute, you could probably do that before you launch, but we were lucky. We did it out of necessity. And yeah, that's where we are today. We're now in about 400 and change retail stores across the country from coast to coast.
Wow.
And we're launching with a really large multinational in all of their stores in the spring. So we're super excited for that.
Oh, that is incredible. You go from this idea on a yacht to a few shops.
He didn't own the yacht.
In people's homes across the country, and yeah, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been really exciting.
Yeah. So then I guess now we're going to move into a little bit of a conversation around like what are some of the things to think about when you're trying to scale up your business. So I would love to welcome Erin Young, who is the Hub Incubator Services Manager at the John F. Wood Center here at Maine.
So, as entrepreneurs, it's super cool that there's an incubator on campus where people with ideas can go and learn and launch their business. I love it.
Thank you. And he's saying that because we roped him in as a mentor and as on our advisory board too. So we love Khalil.
You just kind of started off then by sharing a little bit about the John F. Wood Center. What does it do for those who may not know?
Sure. So the John F. Wood Center is here at the University of Guelph in the Business School of Lang. And what we do is entrepreneurship for any students on campus, no matter what department they're in. So we want to be the catch-all for all these great ideas, and students, are developing great ideas, think they have the next $1 million idea, and we want them to come to us and they apply to get into our Hub Incubator. So we have 3 programs that go from, how do you find an idea and problem solving and coming up with that solution that you can then sell. And then we have more of a market research one, which I'll be talking a lot about market research, where they go out, do all this market research on their idea, and hopefully by the end they validate it or they pivot, which is also great too. And the last one is our launch lab, where they're just learning the nitty gritty of putting their business plan together, and hopefully either launching or going on to seed funding or going to an external incubator.
So we did all that live in market without any pre-planning.
Yeah, and you know what? Look where you are. So.
There's always 2 paths.
Definitely is. There's definitely more than one. So, what we try to help the students with is, they're all very new to business,
Mhm.
and they just want to go right away. They're like, I want to launch tomorrow. And so we say, well, let's take a step back and let's make sure you have an idea that, you have a product and there's a market fit for it. So we get them to do all this market research. And so things that I tell them that should I go into?
Tell us, like, if people are trying to start off and they have an idea. What do you recommend to students or people in general?
Well, first, I think, at least for the restaurant industry, is retail is a really great option to scale your business, another revenue option. And so it's really exciting to have your business grow in that way. Perhaps the cons is that it's like a whole new business, right? And, you really have to think about how are you going to run that business, and who's involved, and all these things. So there is a lot of thinking that goes ahead of that. Some things that we recommend is, first of all, talk to your customers. What do they love about your restaurant? Are there certain ingredients or products that you already make that they're constantly asking for, or asking for the recipe? They're going to be your best bet at telling you perhaps what your product should be. And there's a lot of products that you can choose from as a restaurant too. There's all the consumables, there is pantry items, you can do spice blends and things. And then meal kits is an amazing idea because that lets people take your restaurant experience home with them, right? Mm-hmm. So we say do some research. You can do social media polls, mm-hmm. You can do surveys, or just sitting, like probably what you did, is talking to the chef and seeing, and then you get to know, what's good there and mm-hmm. What people are liking. So customers is definitely the first one, telling you if there's going to be a market out there, and because they're your most loyal customers, right? Then you have to start researching who else is my customer out there. I'd like to grow. So who am I going to sell it to? And so you want to make sure that you think, where is this going to sell? Is it on a small scale? Or is it on a large scale, like where these guys are going? And I think the small scale sometimes gets overlooked, especially at the beginning, because you actually have premises that you can test your product mm-hmm. out. You can just start making things, do a small batch and put it right in your restaurant and see if people buy it, see what happens. And so it's a great way to test the market. And then once you're going, mm-hmm. Hit the nail on the head, then it's like, okay, let's go that next step. Yeah. So some other research that we advise, let's see, coming up with a whole list of how are you going to make this happen? Mm-hmm. Suppliers, processors, distributors, what are the taxes? What is the labeling? There's so much, and you guys will tell us how is involved with it.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a lot. So just trying to get your head wrapped around what does this entail is so helpful probably at the beginning, because then you need to put it down in words in a business plan, just so you can actually see, oh, is this viable? Like, do I want to do this? Mm-hmm. Do I think I can do this? And is there a path for it? And so, that kind of research, putting it all together. Most important research is, prices and revenue. Of course, you're doing this to make money, right? So what are you going to charge? And that comes from, perhaps looking at the competition. What are they doing? Mm-hmm. Perhaps looking just at any other restaurants that are doing the same thing, knowing that you make something unique that adds value. Maybe yours is way different from the other ones. Yeah. So you have a unique value to your customers, and perhaps it's something they've never tried before too. And if it's something new, that's fantastic. Yeah.
No, that's great. So then Khalil and Jared, I know that this was kind of developed out of COVID. Did you follow any of this process, or was it fail and figure it out? What was your route that you?
Yeah, we were definitely doing it in tandem, right? So we were doing a lot of the things that Erin's talking about while we're out selling and gathering feedback. And one thing that really helped us is we were deeply connected to our customers, and that every single morning we would pull up our customer feedback surveys and our Google reviews, and anywhere where a customer could leave us feedback, and we would review it. And we quickly were able to iterate on the product quickly based on that customer feedback. So I'd say if you are taking the path of launching and learning, being deeply connected to your customer is extremely important.
Yeah, samples.
Yeah.
Get your product out there in some way, right? When you're giving away free samples or whatever, to start to get an idea of what they're like you said, right? Like what they're after.
Yeah, that's a good way to kind of, I guess, start a conversation too while you're in your research and find out what it is that people like too, or even. I thought that idea, I guess, if you're an example too, it invites people in and gets them hooked, at least with your product for sure. Yeah. So then I'm just wondering, like, is there, I'm wondering if what was a challenge that you've often faced, or something that you learned kind of along the way, or something you wish maybe known before you started down this path?
Yeah, I think the biggest one and a culture we try to create is there's no such thing as a failure. There's only learnings, and us as humans, we can beat ourselves up on oh, this didn't work, we failed this. No, what do we learn? So we really try to have the whole team reflect on, it's totally okay to make a mistake, but it's unacceptable not to learn from it. That was a really big one. Optimize your alumni network. If there's any students in the room, and alumni doesn't necessarily just mean university, the people that you meet along your journey. I'm here today because there's a gentleman in the audience that started to get me involved with the U of G, but it's absolutely incredible the amount of people that you've met along your journey that can help. And the key to that is being able to ask good questions. Really dialing into, what do I not know? And to do that, you have to park the ego. And you have to be able to say, I might have a blind spot here. Is there somebody that I can go ask? Is there a consultant I can call? How do I figure this part out? Because we don't know everything. And if you're able to ask those good questions, it's really incredible what people will give back when you say, hey, can you teach me about your research? And you're like, absolutely, I would love to do that. So those are some for me that stick out.
Yeah, that's a great point of view, to ask people for help and get feedback. And so many people have been along that pathway, and that's always helpful. For you, Erin, when you are working in the Hub Incubator program, are there certain challenges you see your students facing commonly, do you have any advice for them?
Probably kind of what I mentioned before is, they all come in with the $1 million idea, and I'm not out to crush anyone's dreams. I always say, but I want them to then prove it. Let's take that idea, and yes, it's a great idea, and let's make sure it's going to make that kind of money. And so, it's a bit of a challenge for them to get their head wrapped around, just learning and. How to get their business off the ground, but they're always so hungry. Anyone, even we have 3 food industry companies right now, and they're the passion and the excitement around something like that is fantastic. And
knowing your numbers is so important, right? And not memorizing your numbers, not being able to say this is this number. It's deeply understanding. If you're looking at your P&L, it's one thing to say this is my food cost. It's another thing to understand the drivers that go in behind it. So deeply understanding versus just memorizing is extremely important. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, I think that's a great point of view. I know here, the Anita Stewart Food Lab is part of the Lang School of Business, and we have a lot of students that go through our commerce program. And I think the one thing that is nice with Lang and the fact that we have the Wood Center, it gives people actual chance to experience things as they're learning alongside, and instead of things just being a number on a profit and loss sheet, maybe they're actually trying to establish their company and have those kind of support systems is nice.
I would say especially on the money front, a lot of students are like, I don't need to get paid. I'm just going to do this and I'm just going to put my head down and get this business off the ground. But there's going to come a time when you have to do the numbers. You want to make profit. And they need to see what those projections are. And also they need to know if at a stage they may need investors, right? So it's going to take cash to get, to scale. So what do they need to know in order to scale their business? It's really important.
I'm going off our schedule things we're going to talk about, but do you all have any, if someone had an idea and they wanted to have a food business, do you have any idea of where you could direct people for resources or help? I think a lot of the time people feel overwhelmed and they don't know where to go. Do you have one thing that you could maybe there could be a million, right? But
or direct to like where they could go to get some information. The universities and colleges have been amazing resources for us. Reaching out, like be humble and just reach out and ask people questions. Other chefs and stuff like that as well. Don't be afraid. Like sometimes you want to you got this great idea. I want to hold on to it. I'm not going to tell anybody until they're ready to launch it. No, you got to just put it out there. Like you might have a great recipe, you might have a great food or a great concept or something like that. But you got to put it out there. You got to find out what other people think of it and get that feedback. And that like nobody's going to rip you off right away. Like if it is like realistically, nobody's going to rip you off. And the chances of that happening are very small compared to the upside of the information you're going to get from the feedback from the people that you share it with. So that would be, I'd just be humble, go out there and talk to people.
It's great.
Yeah, I would say, and I think you mentioned this, Jared, mentors and other people in the industry doing what you're doing, they're also passionate and excited and probably exhausted, but have a lot of knowledge. And so that's why we also bring mentors into the program as well. But I love telling the students, like, you need to get used to that cold call. And just if there's someone that you can get some great information, pick up the phone and just call them. Then the worst is they don't have time and they say no.
Yeah.
So you move on to the next person. But I can guarantee you most people will say, oh, you're a student or you own this restaurant? Cool. Like, yeah, let's talk.
Yeah, just be prepared with those questions though, right? There's like, oh, hey, I want you to do okay, what do you want? I didn't realize you were gonna say that. Okay. So like what do you want? Specific questions from them. Just answer these 3 questions, something for me. And then who knows where that goes, right? That could lead to a relationship that they are just having coffee with you and giving you any piece of information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, or
no? I think
you've shared a lot of things so
you
far.
hit it on the nail, and every no is just the next step closer to a yes. So
yeah,
positive thinking. So just as we wrap up with our time here with you, Erin, is there anything you want to share about the Wood Center? How could people learn more about it or follow along on what you're doing with your programming?
Yeah, so we do focus on students at the University of Guelph only. And so those of you in the community, we do have some other events, sometimes some workshops, or we do a big picture series with the community where it's on a certain topic to do with entrepreneurship or sustainability. And we invite people, the general public, to come to those as well. But that's kind of it. So, but if you're a student, I say just, contact me and we can talk about your idea. We can talk about how to prepare it for the application to get into the Hub Incubator. And yeah, I think it's a really great experience for them.
And alumni as well, right?
Yes.
Can apply? Yeah.
Yes, we accept alumni, recent grads up to probably 5 years. So yeah, it's open. We have right now a lot of graduate students and a couple of graduates, alumni that are in the program, and it's going to be fun.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to kind of follow along. It's always nice to see what products come out of the Hub Incubator program as well too.
Yeah, there's some cool incredible products.
And so I encourage everyone to follow along and check out your website. Great. Yeah. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so now we're gonna move into kind of a little bit of a demo with Jared. So we've got a big setup here. Can you walk us through what are you gonna show us?
I mean, I wanted to, being that this was a food lab and stuff like that, I wanted to make sure we did some sort of a cooking demo and keep it simple, but give you guys something of value that you could take home with you. So back to like wanting to, I've never shared this recipe with anybody outside of Crafty Ramen, so maybe you guys have input on it. It's not.
You didn't ask the CEO first.
But I really love, so this is just our veg stock recipe, right? But what I love about this recipe is the versatility of it, right? So it's a 3-step process to make, and it hasn't changed since day one when we started the restaurant. It's the exact same veg stock we're making. It's the same veg stock that's going in that we're making at massive scale into our grocery products. And it starts off, it's 3 steps, so it starts off with kombu, so kombu being a seaweed. Now, when you're working with kombu, it's important that you don't heat it to above 60 degrees because it becomes very bitter. We use kombu in all of our stocks, and what we generally do to them is we make a tea out of it overnight. So we just like let it sit. It doesn't have to be heated at all. Actually, the lower the temperature you get it, the more sweet umami amino acids that you'll extract from it, right? So that is just heated to 60 degrees and then taken off and put aside. The next step to it is dried shiitake mushrooms. Now, it's important that they're dried because the umami-ness of our shiitake mushroom actually increases through the drying process. I don't know the science behind that, but if you look it up, it's a fact. So then that's the next step to it. So I know we put those in, they go in, and I simmer them for about 45 minutes. And then finally what we do is we take grape tomatoes, and we put those in, and I probably don't have time to finish that. We just bring those to a boil, and so they pop, right? So the reason we use these 3 ingredients is because they're the most umami-rich ingredients, vegan ingredients on the planet, right? So basically when I was trying to make the stock, I was just trying to get as much of that like MSG, but like the natural monosodium glutamate that appears in most of our foods is rich in as much into that as possible. And then this is what was developed out of it. But what I really love about it is that what we've done is all of the elements that come out of here, we upcycle them, right? So the kombu comes, we take it after we've used it, we've extracted the flavor to make the stock, we then re-dry that and we grind it up into a powder because there's still a lot of flavor in it. The shiitake mushrooms the same. We used to take those, and we still do this to this very day. We take them, we stem them, we quarter them, we pickle them, and they go in a few of our bowls, right? At one point, we actually had that as a retail product too. Great, they're a fantastic product on their own. And then the grape tomatoes after they come out, because all we want to do is to get them to pop, and we're basically making tomato water within the stock. So we take those out, we dry them out, we make those into a powder, and then we would combine the 3 powders. If we're not pickling these, we can make those into a powder as well. We combine those 3 powder, what becomes umami powder, right? And we use that to enhance the flavor of our other bowls as well, right? Because it's got a lot of flavor to it as well. And now that product you can actually find, we don't sell it, but there's many companies out there that are selling that exact product as umami powder on its own. We buy one that's called Natural Flavor Enhancer, which is exactly the same as that. It's just umami-rich ingredients that they've freeze-dried, and then we use them to enhance the flavor of our stock. So it's a very simple recipe. It is super versatile. You can use it for any of your soups. It's not particularly Asian, even though you've got like kombu and shiitake mushrooms in there. If you're making a vegan like vegetable soup or even like meat-based sauces and stuff like that, it's just a fantastic base. So I wanted to share that with you, so you all had something to take home, and we can share that, the actual ingredients to that.
Starting to smell.
You can see it. These will pop. So as we're going on, you'll see them as these pop. They'll come out and they just pop like balloons, and then we'll put them aside and let them.
Starting to get scared.
So maybe if people don't know kombu,
kombu. Generally, the best kombu comes from Japan or China.
Okay.
Hokkaido, northern Japan. They have these massive forests of it. They're incredible. It's not a cheap product, but for what you get out of it, it's well worth the money. Again, shiitake mushrooms, any ethnic store will have them. The grape tomatoes are local whenever we can get them. And then and as we've scaled, like I said, the recipes stay the exact same, but we've had to be more innovative in the way that we're doing it. Where now we use like special nets in order to put our ingredients in, because when you're making 400 liters of this, originally we used to like sit there and scoop them all out with a spider, and now we realize that doesn't really work. We actually steam. We have rational ovens. We steam the tomatoes. It creates the same process because it still pops them, creates that tomato water, and then we take that tomato water, we put it in the stock. We take the actual the pulp of it, and we take that, we dry it, and we turn it into tomato powder. But like that pulp, if you don't want tomato powder at home, it actually makes a fantastic base for tomato jams or tomato sauce as well, right? So there's many ways you can use the byproducts of this stock, and that's what's so great about it. It's like there's no wastage to it, right? 'Cause normally when you make a stock, you make a bunch of stuff, you take a bunch of flavor out, and then you discard a bunch of bones or whatever. Or even if you're making a nage or whatever, you're still discarding a bunch of vegetables that could have a use to them. So
Yeah, I like that you shared that, because a lot of time people are like, the veg stock is what you do with your leftover vegetable bits, and that's kind of like how we're thinking about circularity. But now you've kind of reimagined it the other way around, using it afterwards for the powder. So that's great.
Yeah, it's been great for us. So that's so I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you. So you mentioned a little bit about how you had to change as you kind of scaled up.
For sure.
Is this sort of like the same? Yeah. So as you scaled up, how did you figure out that process?
Trial and error, and then in talking to we employ like I don't know, so 80 people now, right? And everybody comes to the table with their ideas, innovations. They're the ones working with the products, doing stuff every day. They're the ones that see the problems in the process, and so we really encourage. I encourage them every morning to, if you have a better idea of a way of doing something, let us know. But don't go doing it your way. Just because you have a better way, share it, and then we can all decide if that is the better way. Just because the consistency is the one of the like. It can't be comfort food if it's not consistent, right? People come to the restaurant, they want the same experience they've had every time they've come. So like we've hammered home the point of consistency religiously, and so.
So how do you ensure that things are consistent then? For those that maybe have never worked in a restaurant or
SOPs, recipes, stuff like that. Defined processes, good training, and like good training requires you to be both open both ways for their feedback as well as well your input. Because if you're not listening, why should they listen? So like you get people that have ideas, you got to listen to their ideas and just like explain to them why it doesn't work that way or why you do it that way, right? So I think that's part of it, is just having that relationship with your team.
And putting yourself in the shoes of the customer, right? We've all probably been to a restaurant that we really enjoy on an off night where something wasn't going well in the kitchen, and we're like, the B team was working tonight. But we've all had that experience, right? So when we educate our team on, hey, put yourself in the shoes of the customer, you're looking for that consistent experience. McDonald's is McDonald's because a Big Mac is a Big Mac everywhere in the world, right? And that's the consistency that we strive for.
Yeah, it's an art being able to be able to do that. Give something consistent throughout, and it takes time.
It's constant work.
So I think maybe now would be a good time then to talk a little bit about product development and how you did that. Do you want to walk us through maybe some of the ingredients that you?
So I mean, a lot of like we talk about our bowls. They're restaurant quality, and they are essentially the exact same product that we serve in the restaurants. But as we've developed over time, we realized that certain things don't freeze. So like bean sprouts, for instance, you try freezing them and they're absolutely terrible. You've all had them go back or frozen in your fridge. These ones almost froze on the way here because it was so cold outside. So we were like, okay, well, what can we use instead? I mean, green onions is not perfect, but it certainly freezes a lot better than Neggie's. Corn is fantastic. I mean, most corn you buy comes frozen anyways. But so we just had to learn and tweak those things as we've gone along, just figuring it out, tasting it ourselves, eating our own product, and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And then, of course, listening to feedback. Like Khalil was saying, that we list every day. We're like, as part of the morning meeting, we're going through all the reviews, all the comments. What are people saying about what we're doing, what we have? And if we keep seeing, like, this is not work, that's not good, we put the work in to develop it and change. So it's a constant process of refinement. But at the same time, we don't want to stray from our core, right? but we want to refine it in a way that makes the product better, not different.
Yeah, I think the other really important one that we had to learn as we scaled into the retail market was the size of the product and the costing that was attached to it. So we started with the 2 meal kit boxes on the left are the same size bowl that we serve in the restaurant, 700 to 750 grams. And as we try to take that to market, once you start adding a distributor's cost and listing fees and promos and all that on top, we quickly realized we would have to charge $20 or some crazy amount that the consumer wouldn't be willing to pay. And as we reached out to industry experts to learn, the average single-serve frozen item in a grocery store is 250 grams. We couldn't go to market with something that was 3 times the size.
Wow.
So we said we still need to give a hearty bowl, so we downsized it a bit. We're still about a pound, over 500 grams, and that allowed us to get a price point that was compelling inside of a grocery store when you're looking at a $2.99 single-serve meal beside our $12 to $13 frozen ramen meal. So that was a really interesting learning along the journey. But from a price per 100-gram perspective, we were right there competitive with the big multinational, highly processed foods.
Yes.
That's interesting, and a great point to talk up kind of like the pricing too, and the pricing in a restaurant is quite different than pricing in a grocery store or online, and how do you figure that out?
I think it was Erin who said it, but the different businesses, so we're serving the same food in restaurant, e-commerce, and grocery, but they are 3 totally different businesses. And we, over the last year, we really had to dial in on, okay, what is our main focus, and what are we going to put a lot of our time and energy into, and that's really the grocery side of our business. And we obviously love and care about our restaurants, but for the growth plan on a small but mighty team, you have to pick one. You can't spread the whole team really thin, so that is our go forward.
Thanks for sharing that.
Pleasure.
So I think now we'll continue talking a little bit about product development, but I'd like to bring in Jared Vella into the conversation. So Jared Vella is the director of the Guelph Food Innovation Centre. So welcome, and join us right there.
Hi, everyone.
So Derek, can you get us started off by just sharing a little bit about the Guelph Food Innovation Centre? What is some of the work that you do there?
Sure. So we're a center here on campus with the Department of Food Science. Our mandate is to work with the food industry, Canadian food industry largely, as well as students to do food research, develop new products, and solve problems, basically. Yeah. And so we work in a variety of different food categories, ranging from beverage to frozen foods to ice cream to snacks, bar, you name it.
Okay.
So we work in all of those spaces with a variety of companies, ranging from really small pre-revenue companies that are just starting out, all the way up to large national corporations. And so different companies, different problems.
Yeah. Can you maybe give an example of some of the problems that or things people have come to you for help with?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, again, it really spans a wide range. And it comes in phases. So, there was a time where everyone was coming to us wanting to develop a new oat milk because that was popular at the time.
An oat milk?
An oat milk, yeah. At other times, it was vegan products. At other times, right now, it happens to be plant-based cheeses and non-alcoholic cocktails. Ready-to-drink products. Yeah. So, and each one of those different food categories have their own problems. Some of them are the same, some of them are wildly different. And I love the conversation that's been going on here because I think that Jared and Khalil have really demonstrated so many of the different stages that we would typically help a company out with, ranging from, concept development all the way through to, finding and fixing your finished product based on the problems that you're encountering.
So I have asked them already what's like one bit of advice you have. Do you have an advice that would, for companies who are looking to get into that retail market with their food product, and like something that they should start off with as
Sure.
help them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the advice that you've gotten already is amazing, and I would definitely reiterate that. Don't be shy. Reach out to experts. Use your network. Specifically to the point of developing the food product itself, where we always start is with food safety, because that is going to drive so many other choices. So if we take a look at a product like Crafty Ramen, or a ramen in general, there's 3 or 4 different ways that we can bring that product to market in a way that is safe. So we can have a completely dry product, the same way that you find instant ramen. You could have a fresh product. You could have a frozen product. The way that we approach bringing and commercializing those different products are going to be wildly different. And, starting with that initial decision, it's going to impact, they've talked about it already, right? The cost of transit, the cost of retail, the type of ingredients that you can use, consumer experience, quality, all of those things are going to be informed by the format, which is driven by safety. So starting there and engaging with people, obviously this is something that we do, but Jared also mentioned that they've worked with colleges. There's lots of groups out there that are positioned to help you do this type of activity.
That's great. I know I was in a meeting last week, and it was about just how much restaurants, like they're seeing it as a trend. All these restaurants are trying to diversify and have consumer packaged goods, and places like the Guelph Food Innovation Centre are kind of getting hit with a lot of requests. Are you finding that? Has there been an increase since the pandemic, or has it just kind of been consistent? It's just the different products go through different phases.
I would say, very much echoing, everything I'm going to say is very much echoing what Jared Farrell said. I don't think that we'll ever be as busy as we were during the pandemic. That was a time when so many companies were having to pivot their business model. Everyone, the food service industry took a massive hit, and so all of those companies really tried to pivot and switch their product. Whether it was just changing the food products that they're delivering for a takeout model versus a consumer packaged good model, we became incredibly busy. But yeah, it really just continues sort of like pre-pandemic sort of tenor. We're as busy, it's just the food products change, just like fashion does.
Yeah, that's good. You probably then are a good person to talk to about trends and what's up and coming.
The great thing though about the restaurants branching out into frozen meals, whether it's locally, so there's less stringent, but still need to make sure your food is safe. You're selling inside of Ontario, inside of your city. When you go to Market Fresh here in town, you in the frozen aisle now, you're seeing restaurant quality food with clean ingredient decks. So we're seeing this huge transition in the frozen aisle, and frozen is hot again. I guess those don't really go together, but you're seeing a really big change in the frozen aisle in grocery. And I mentioned, we're launching with a multinational, and they're seeing that as well. So they're taking 2 freezer doors in all of their stores across the country and just filling it with restaurant quality products.
So, Derek, is it possible for you to walk us through some of the steps you have to go through if you say you have an idea of a food product? What are the different, are there different regulations and different things that you have to follow to be able to develop that product and get it to that final stage? I know there's a million things, but
So, fundamentally, I think that the steps remain largely the same. A lot of it starts with exactly what you've heard. It starts with the consumer, making sure that you've got a product offer that makes sense, that consumers want, doing some validation, whether it be sampling or consumer studies or reaching out to Erin. All of these things are really the fundamental to make sure that any company, whether they're established or not, has limited resources, and you can't, or most companies can't afford to iterate until they hit the right thing. So starting off from a position where you're understanding, at least reasonably well what type of product that you want to be making, who it's for, what the primary goal of that product is, what product or what problems does it solve for the consumer. That's really where to start.
Okay.
And then after that, we would determine what the format is, and then we would start doing product development, creating a prototype that can be brought to market in a safe way that's appealing and checks all the boxes for that same consumer. And then lastly, it's a matter of finding, where do we produce this? How do we produce it? How do we package it? And then what retailers do we go into so that we can, directly connect to the consumer that we want to target in the first place?
Yeah. So yeah, I think sometimes we think it's like so easy to translate a product, and it's just, you could just package your bowl of ramen from the shop and send it up, but it's not. There's all these different layers, whether it is actually figuring out what are the right foods, but then even just packaging is a huge thing, the logistics of getting things.
The stages, like, they're not linear because they inform each other, because you might be like, oh cool, we got this really tastes good, great. Okay, yeah, we can make it this way, cool. Well, who makes it? Oh wait, there's nobody that makes that. There's nobody that has the technology, or this is so outside of the realm of co-packers that we're going to have to either build a facility to make it, or we've got to go back to the drawing board to figure out what can be made, and then rewrite all what we're making so we can actually find someone to make it, because we don't have $10 million to build a facility to make it. Yeah. So it can't be linear. It's always a back and forth play.
And everything has a cause and effect, right? Every decision we make in life has a cause and effect. We started packaging the frozens in cases of 12. Great, we're out in market. Start talking to a new Mr. Large retailer. We need them in 6s. Okay. Now, do we have a 6 and a 12? Do we convert everything to a 6? Converting everything to a 6 means notifying all of our other customers. Are they going to buy less now? How do we manage these in batch codes, lot codes, traceability? Yeah. So it sounds very simple, right? Oh, they want 6 at a time and they want 12 at a time. But when we dial into the logistics of just that one change, it has a huge cause and effect waterfall.
When I teach product development, the way that I often describe it is it's kind of like solving a Rubik's Cube, where just when you think you've got your one side all sorted out and it's just getting close, everything looks like they're all yellow, when you look on the back side, everything is a mess. Yeah. You've got to try and figure out, so you're really having to look at all sides at the same time and make sure that everything is progressing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important too, we don't want to deter anybody from an entrepreneurial journey or launching a food product or a CPG product. It's just we're trying to share information that we wish we would have known 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely a process. So Brian, why did you choose to do your product as a frozen product? What helped inform that decision?
Well, we started with a fresh product. Yeah. So when we launched our e-commerce meal kit, we started with Tri-Cities, Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge. We would accept orders up until Sunday. They would ship out on Wednesday, Thursday. So it would give us a couple days to take those orders, make the fresh product, get it out the door. But by the time it got to the consumer, it had 3 to 4 days shelf life on it. And then as we had retailers starting to reach out, there's no way we can scale a fresh product with shelf life and all the food safety and all the important things that we need to check off. So we iterated the fresh meal kit to a frozen meal kit, and then iterated that into the frozen all-in-one version. So that's a little bit of that journey.
And then Derek, are you able to maybe share, or can you think of like a common challenge that you're seeing companies struggle with, or like there's probably a lot of regulation around things?
There is a lot of regulation.
What is the challenge you're seeing?
So the biggest challenge that we see across most sectors is exactly the one that Jared just described, which is that in our lab we can develop pretty much any type of food product, from a Cheeto to a sauce or a stock. Finding a partner that you can get to make it for you, or to get the financing to be able to build your own facility, are really the biggest challenges. So sometimes those partners don't exist, meaning if you want to bring a product to market, you literally cannot find someone in your country that makes that product. And there's plenty of examples of that. Right now, we've got lots of companies that want to bring like gummy type products to market. Those co-packers exist, but only if you want to make truckloads of it. And so for a small company, you may not be able to afford or want or have the market yet for truckloads. Sometimes for Crafty, I think that they've done a remarkable job of bringing this to market. But they have resources that a lot of companies don't, right? They have Jared. They have but truly, like a lot of companies that want to bring a product to market, they do not have someone who is expert in food or in food technology. They have a space. They have a place where they could iterate. They have an existing consumer base. So, for a company that's starting at literally ground zero, those are a lot of assets that they kind of need. Some companies have the opposite problem. If they didn't have the space and if they didn't have Jared, they would be coming to us to help them develop the product, and then they would need to find someone to make the product. Well, when they're starting out, they maybe needed someone to make 1,000 of those products and not 100,000. Other companies have the opposite problem, is that they need 100,000, but their product is so niche that they can only find someone to make it in the 1,000. So scale is always an issue, and especially in Canada. We're a relatively small population compared to the US, and we're long. Which means that if you want to make a product here and distribute it nationally, you're going from here and you're going, you can't just expand in a circle, you've got to expand linearly. So
it costs us twice as much to ship a pallet to British Columbia than it does to Texas, as an example.
Right. So those are typically the challenges, and then depending on the product, scaling, they've talked about that a little bit, like how you take a product from a 2-liter benchtop sample up to 100 liters, 1,000 liters, 10,000 liters. There's always different challenges along the way. So that's what we help with.
How do you produce everything that you need? Do you have a answer it if you
Well, originally it was born out of Kitchener. When we built Kitchener, we actually built it with when my line was a commissary kitchen on the back of it. I thought it was huge. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I have this much space. That quickly became not enough space to do much at all. Luckily, when we launched, the dining room was closed. So I just built this beautiful new dining room, and I was literally found myself dismantling it all and turning my dining room into a production facility. And then we got to the end of COVID, things were starting to open up, and we were like, Khalil's going, Jared, we gotta get dining room, but what are we gonna do? I was really, really lucky to find, we were really, really lucky to find Shopify Kitchen. Shopify had taken over a space, had a secondary space that they took over in downtown Waterloo. Now they're out of Waterloo completely, but they just built this beautiful building and put this nice kitchen in there to service their team, and had a little bit of a warehouse at the back. It actually had a woodworking room out of the back of it as well. I don't know why they need a woodworking room, but anyways, we managed to fight another company off and take that space, and we've since turned that into a production facility. Changed out the equipment, turned that woodworking room into an assembly room, turned that ramen space at the back into our warehouse, and it just worked out beautifully because I've looked and looked for co-packers to make our products and not been able to find one. I'm still looking for different elements of it, but to find this unicorn holy grail of somebody that would make that product for us, there's nobody out there to do it. Nobody's tooled in that way. Maybe if I was lucky to find someone that can make stock, and I can find someone that can maybe make by chashu, and I could combine them, but there was never anybody that was had anything close to the equipment necessary, so we just had to build it on, and we just did it on the cheap.
The really big benefit to us owning our own manufacturing throughout COVID is we were able to really control the inflationary pressures. Had we found that co-packer and handed off the product, they would have just passed through all the price increases to us, and you can't just go to Loblaws tomorrow and say, we need to increase our prices. It doesn't work like that. There are very, very long lead times, and they have to say yes or no or accept it. So owning our own manufacturing really allowed us to help control the inflationary pressures and switch suppliers as we needed to, as prices were going crazy during the pandemic.
And pivot a product run from a fresh product to a frozen product to a completely different product. While we were sort of making those other products, it was, we didn't stop making this when we started making this. We made both of them for a period of time before we had to say, okay, this is where the future is, so we have to stop that. And that was a whole big deal on its own, but it gave us the ability to do that. It gave us flexibility.
That's great. So I know that we have 8 minutes left. Did we want to go through the process of making one of your frozen?
Yeah, why don't we pop one in the microwave, and then as we eat, we can display it for the folks in the room.
I've got our Kaizen broth here, which is the same broth that we have in the Kaizen of the vegan tofu pot there. And this is made with that veg stock, and then this is our miso tare with some togarashi on it. That miso tare is again something we make in house ourselves, something I've never been able to get anybody else to make for us.
Some of you have our miso bot stickers. They're still in the packaging on your table. They're here. The inspiration for that sticker and our little miso bot mascot came from, maybe I can throw it under the camera so you can see, there's chili miso butter molded into a little robot on this guy, and you get to melt it into your bowl. It's a lot of, it's a lot of fun.
So we just put the
Frozen
ramen into the hot. I was like, I've heard you say that, but can I say it? So we put it in the microwave. We put it in for 7 minutes.
7 minutes, and then we'll wiggle it around and put it in for another couple minutes, and then it'll be ready to go. And as we talk about the journey of food safety and really dialing in and getting all the Canadian Food Inspection Agency approvals so we can sell food outside of Ontario, one of the things we had to do was validate our cooking instructions. And through that process, we found that the original 8-minute time that we thought we could cook wasn't quite hitting the food safety benchmark that we needed, so we had to increase the cook time a little bit. And that box that you're seeing in front of you has had, I don't know how many hours of meetings and reviews and eyeballs, and then there's probably still something on there that needs to be updated or tweaked or changed, and the iterations that you go through to get packaging compliant is a significant amount of work.
So are there different people that have to evaluate the product along the way?
And Jared's a lot closer to the food safety side of things than I am, but there is, finished product testing, listeria testing inside the facility, water testing. What am I missing? We talked about validating the cooking instructions, obviously the nutritionals. So if you have a more standard product, there are softwares you can buy and plug in all your ingredients, and it'll give you a good idea of what your nutritionals are. Because some of our recipes are not traditional or not in the masses, we need to send our product out to a lab to get the nutritionals then back to us. So there are a lot of different steps along the process to make that happen.
Okay.
Miss anything, Jared? I probably missed 100 things. But
No. It's just like as you get bigger, you get more and more eyes, different levels of scrutiny. We've recently been got our CFIA meat processing facility license, which was a very big mountain to climb, and then now we've got government agencies every day that have to be in the facility to check out everything you do, which is great. I mean, we're not scared of it. It's just that it's just another thing, another hurdle to overcome. Getting that license was like, it took a lot of I think we went through 3 different consultants. I think it was 4 consultants. One of them we still use, and 2 of them we still use, and just to sort of make it all happen, right? Seem to be low on stock here.
That's great.
Does anybody want to try these? Just come up and grab them.
Or we'll pass them around to everyone in the audience.
I'm just going to count, make sure I don't.
And so just as I guess I got a little paranoid about the time, and we didn't get to say a thank you to Derek for joining us today. It was helpful to get his insight, and you can find out more information. They have a great website, the Guelph Food Innovation Centre, and learn a little bit more about what they're doing. And I know that there's so many people who Derek has been able to help out with their different businesses. So
Derek's helped us out, right? Derek, we've got a gluten-free noodle that we've developed with Derek and his team. That we because of the way that it has to be manufactured, we weren't able to implement it yet, but it's still something that we very much plan to do in the future. But you've been a fantastic source of resource to just call up and be like, hey, I've got a question about this, or I've got this, and he's just always been extremely helpful. And so we're really grateful to be at Guelph. The support we've had by both professionally as well as by our customers has been fantastic.
that's what we're there for.
And then, so if people want to learn more about Crafty Ramen, or they want to purchase your product, where do they purchase it?
So we have a restaurant downtown Guelph for the Guelphites in the room. Kitchener and Toronto, as Jared mentioned. We are in a handful of Loblaw stores. We're in a bunch of independents across the country, Sobeys, and while we are always targeting the big retailers because that's how we can scale and grow, we're super grateful for all the independents along the way that were the original reason why we found the product market fit, and they reached out to us to say, hey, we want to sell your product. I'm like, whoa, what is happening here? That was a really cool moment for us, and we're super grateful. And the independent grocery retailers, just like small businesses, are the backbone of the food retail side, and they're the ones that are always pushing the boundaries on new innovative products. They want to sell the things that the big retailers are not selling, and so we're just super grateful for them.
And on that point, I think that we talked about like going out there and talking to people. Well, go to talk to especially those little retailers.
Yeah.
Ask them what sells. Ask them what people are asking for. Ask them what what's the trend in the market and stuff like that. Because that's your ground zero, right? And they've got a lot of cool ideas and stuff like that. They'll tell you right away that you might have we got a really great hot sauce, for instance, right? But the hot sauce market is so saturated. You can have the best hot sauce in the world. Trying to move up, you're going to spend so much money trying to move your hot sauce off the shelf that you're probably better off going to make something that's not got its own shelf already. Just as an example on that.
That's great. Yeah, and I think that's been a big theme that I'm taking away from today. We're talking about scaling up, but a lot of it has actually been about like actually going and talking to people, doing your research, or asking for help, or networking, and that's kind of like a big way for you to be able to
absolutely.
To grow.
We have a team of 80 people, like Jared said, and while we might be the leaders of the business, you can't do it without the army, right? Like, it's so much bigger than any one person, and we have a grocery expert and people that run our restaurants and run our facility and the assembly team. It's all one unit, and we're so grateful for everybody on the team to help us on the journey. So
that's great. Yeah, it's been great watching you grow, and I can't wait to see it continue.
And thank you for having us here today.
Yeah.
This is really cool, and it was an awesome conversation with yourself and Derek and
Erin. Yeah. And on that note, the microwave just ended.
we're gonna wiggle it and then put it back in for a couple of minutes.
I'm gonna grab the cases. We might as well get. We brought a sample for everybody to take with them.
This is the power of the
We have a
microwave.
freezer somewhere near you.
We just need like one more minute here. Perfect.
Okay. So for those who are online, we'll show you the finished product in about 1 minute, and then for those who are here in person, you'll be able to get some samples and lots of good things.
All right. And the key here when you're making one of these at home is this bowl is going to be very hot. So that is our frozen product ready at home in minutes. And as Jared mentioned, it's the same ingredients, recipe, other than a couple veggies and quality that we use in our restaurants. So thank you so much.
Yeah, looks fantastic. So just for those who are online, thank you for tuning in. Again, a huge thanks to Khalil and Jared for joining us today, Erin for her great knowledge from the Wood Centre, and Derek from the Guelph Food Innovation Centre. So thank you.